Let's begin.
Scary Story Fanatics, welcome back to Cleaving Thought from Bone with your host, Sociopathic. Ever wished that you were someone else? Well, sit back, relax, and get ready to find out why the grass is always greener on the other side. A little story that I like to call, What If You Were Me?
I readied my boots and flotation vest with its multiple pouches. As I was fumbling with the keys in my left hand, I unlocked my cell phone with my right and located Will, a friend I had known since we were toddlers, in my contacts. The line picked up after 2 rings. "Yeah, Joey, how's it going?" "Hey, Will, are you still going? Because I'm just about ready to head out the door." "Yup, I'm actually putting on my stuff, and I'm about by the door as I speak." Will and I were planning on taking a late evening trip down to Ballston Lake to fish for bullheads off the public pier. Fishermen know that bullheads are active at night, making it necessary to wait for the onset of darkness. No loitering or parking was allowed after sunset, but the police never seemed to bother people fishing, only occasionally driving by and checking in, and staving off incidents related to teenage miscreants and their subsequent behavior. "I'm just checking in. You didn't call earlier when you said that you would," I explained to him. "Yeah, I got busy with the kids and completely forgot, but yeah, I'll be ready by the time we get there." I ended the call and placed my phone in my front breast pocket of my vest. "What time do you think you'll be home?" my wife asked from behind me. "Probably sometime before 1, unless the fishing's good," I joked with her. Sarah gave me a pleasant kiss goodbye as I opened the door and walked outside, shutting the door behind me. I always keep my fishing gear in my car, so there was nothing left to do but climb into my beat-up pickup truck and head on over to Will's house. I watched the rearview mirror as the streetlight on the corner outside my house became more and more distant, until it disappeared from sight altogether. The silence of the night evaded me due to the sounds of the old engine underneath the red, rusted hood. I cranked up the radio a little louder to compete with the noise of the motor. After only 2.5 songs, the mailbox at the end of Will's drive emerged from the darkness after making the final turn down an old dirt road. The sky was nearly black now, and the driveway was illuminated by the exterior light that hung on the outside of Will's and Margaret's front porch. I sat in the truck, engine idling, knowing that William must have heard me pull in with this old beater. Sure enough, moments later, Will walked out through the screen door of his porch and towards the passenger side of the car, fishing tackle in hand. "Hey, Joe, told you I'd be ready by the time you got here," Will told me as he swung the passenger door open and climbed inside, placing his gear on the bench behind the seats. "Never had a doubt in my mind," and I smiled as he shut the door and buckled his seatbelt. Will waved to his wife, who could be seen doing the same from the window as I backed out of William's driveway. Not only was the pier only 3 or 4 miles from his house, but the banter between the two of us made time pass fast, making the drive seem almost instantaneous. I turned off the radio and placed the vehicle in park after turning into the small parking lot on the left of a deep woods country road, across the street from the short boardwalk leading down to the pier. Shutting off the lights and killing the engine, both Will and I shuffled ourselves from the truck, grabbing our tackle, locked the doors, and headed towards the quiet stillness of Ballston Lake awaiting us on the other side of the road. "Did you bring your super awesome secret weapon?" Will jibed me about the hot dogs that I had brought as bait the week before. "Nope, all out today," I chuckled back at him. "Oh, too bad. They worked out so great last time. I'm telling you, hot dogs make for great bait for bullheads. They just weren't biting that night. You know how it is. Yeah, except I was hooking them left and right, plain old-fashioned night crawlers. So tell me another one, Joey. Will kept pecking at me. The two of us kept going back and forth as we finished our walk down the path of 2x4s, the sound of boots clomping amidst the noises of crickets and frogs in the weeds on either side. As we reached the end of the dock, the canopy above opened up into a deep black velvet sky glittering with thousands of stars, all twinkling like diamonds. After we placed our stuff down at the end near the water, Will began to rig up his pole while I opened the small blue cooler that I had brought with me. "Here you go, man," I said to Will as I passed him a dripping, ice-cold can of beer. "Thanks, and don't mind if I... Seriously, Joey? Coors Light?" "Hey, it's free, right? Don't complain." And I smiled as I cracked open the beer, then my hand, and took a sip. A couple hours went by, really fast. Although we didn't get so much as a bite, we passed the time efficiently by chatting about work, family life, and the cheap beer that we happened to be drinking. It was about 12:30 when we decided to pack it up and call it a night. I tied my line to my pole and bent over to place the empty cans in the cooler. "What the fuck is that?" I stood upright and turned to see what Will was talking about. And when I did, I noticed his head and gaze were pointed upwards, towards the twinkling sky. "What are you talking about?" "Shh, listen." Will cut me off, forcing me to listen in silence and stare off towards the tree line only a few feet away. I stood there, my focus switching between the woods, on which Will kept a vigilant eye, and my friend's face, frozen and unblinking like a statue, analyzing the contents of the still forest, illuminated with moonlight. "What is it that you're looking for?" As soon as I asked my question, it was the woods themselves that answered back. Intense, blinding light shot into life and lit up the heart of the forest, like the sun itself. "That? What the fuck is that?" "That's what you saw?" I asked Will, confused to why I'd not seen the world light up earlier. "No, I saw something in the sky, and then it was just gone." I wanted to inquire further about what he saw, but yet again, my thoughts were answered before I could even speak the words. In an instant, the burning light in the forest blinked from its invading existence. It was when this happened that I noticed exactly what Will had been talking about. The light in the woods must have drowned it out, like the way the lights of a metropolitan city block the light of the stars above. Now again, in the silent black, an area in the sky, above where the light in the forest had been, looked like a notable portion of the sky appeared different than the sky around it. A large area of the night sky seemed smeared, like staring into the water through an oil blot. The starlight that pervaded the anomaly seemed blurred and dancing, as if a giant water droplet hung in midair above the forest only a few feet away. "That, do you see it?" Will asked me. As he turned his head, I focused my attention on him and informed him that I indeed saw the odd-looking event occurring right before where our eyes had been. When we looked back, the odd event had passed, leaving only a normal-looking starry sky in its wake. It's gone," I told Will, scanning the horizon. No, it's not." Will nudged me as he spoke nervously. I turned my head to the left to look at Will in the face when I noticed that he was once again staring straight up. Slowly, I lifted my gaze upward as well, and saw that the majority of the sky above us looked oily, signaling that the object had moved to position itself directly over top of us. Before I could respond, or even take a breath, I was engulfed in a blinding light before the world around me went black. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer looking up at the night sky. Above me looked like some type of cave, its walls all damp and black, its architecture looking much like that of the inside of a skeleton. The details evaded me as it appeared as if I had water in my eyes. Everything was very blurry. I attempted to move my arms and legs, but was answered back by blinding pain coming from each of them. I tried to move my head from side to side to see what had my arms in place, and found that I could not move my head. I was starting to panic. My breathing was becoming more intense and rapid. "Hello? Let me go. Please, let me the fuck out of here," I continued, to struggle at whatever was holding me in place, trying to ignore the pain, but it seemed the harder I tried, the more it hurt. Not only that, but my efforts seemed futile, not letting me gain even a fraction of an inch. My panic-stricken eyes strained to turn to the side so as to catch a glimpse of what the hell was going on. It took every last muscle in my eyes and so much straining, but the horror of my circumstances started to become very clear. My right and left wrists were clasped to a black surface by an X-shaped bracket that seemed to be part of the surface itself. A large metal knob protruded from the center and likely went all the way through the wrist, because when I tried to move, a cold, steely sensation pervaded the inside of my wrist, and it was accompanied by a sharp pain and the trickling of blood. When I looked down, I noticed that I was completely naked. A large bracket was across my waist as well. However, instead of a knob protruding through the center, the brace seemed divided in the center, creating a large opening that exposed my sternum and abdomen. "Please, what the fuck? Let me out of here!" I yelled, hoping someone would hear me and listen to my pleas. I clenched in fear as I heard the approach of footsteps. The footsteps echoed and seemed to clatter on and off, like something was stumbling around in the blurry, hollow expanse, getting ever closer. I shook in place, unable to move, paralyzed in fear. The footsteps got louder, nearly at the foot of whatever it was that I was fastened to. Leave me alone! What the fuck? Let me go!" I yelled at whatever neared me. But as it passed in front of one of the lights to my right, the shadow moved right past me, not ceasing its odd stride as the footsteps got further and further away. However, before they got out of earshot, the steps just stopped. I stopped yelling, quivering in fear, and I listened intently. Nothing but the sound of distant dripping water. And then suddenly, I heard it. "What the fuck? Where am I? What's going on?" Will, it's me. What's going on?" "Joey? Joey, is that you? What? Who are you? Joey, help!" Ah! Will's pleas and questioning were cut short by the sounds of whirling machinery and blood-curdling screaming. I struggled at my bonds again, ignoring the pain that accompanied the tugging at the metal that passed through the meat above my palms and heels. Despite attempting to tear myself free if I had to, I soon tired from the attempt, as it was evident that escape was impossible. I started to cry as the sounds of mechanics and gurgled screaming continued. The sounds of tearing flesh and slopping wet of something wet upon the floor was orchestrated with the sounds of machinery performing various unseen tasks. I felt like hours passed as I listened to the desperate screams and cries of my friend somewhere behind me. "Please, leave him alone, please." The sounds stopped. I wondered to myself if maybe they'd listened to me. I heard the sounds of clamoring footsteps approaching me from behind. "Will?" I called out for my friend in the blurry dark, dimly lit by an occasional light source. There was no answer. Only the sound of approaching animal-like footsteps. "Will? Are you there?" I started to panic. Why wouldn't he reply? A mass clicked by me and seemed to stop only a few feet away. "What the fuck are you doing? Where am I? Where's Will?" I demanded at the figure, but the response I got was the sound of machines and motors being turned on. In my blurred state, I saw a set of multiple mechanical arms approach my abdomen. Something on two of them were spinning. The ones closest to my face seemed to glisten in the light above. "Wait, stop! I didn't do anything!" I yelled out, my heart feeling like it was going to leap through my ribcage. My pleading did nothing as one of the arms nearest my legs grabbed a hold of both of them and pulled downward, stretching them taut. Another arm in the other side moved downward to greet them and filleted them both open at length, from top to bottom. I writhed in agony and terror as one of the mechanical arms with a spinning attachment propelled downward, ripping through the flesh surrounding my belly button. I found myself unable to do anything but scream. I knew death would be imminent. However, for some reason, consciousness did not elude me. I remained awake as two more arms plunged themselves into my stomach wound and began pulling various internal body parts out, snapping them where they were connected as it pulled them free. The pain was so overwhelming. For a while, I forgot about what was going on. I forgot about Will and my wife. I forgot about whatever held me captive. My thoughts drifted away. It wasn't until I felt a strong breeze on the back of my head that I recognized the sound of something rotating at high speed behind me. Please, please stop, I cried softly, just before something plunged into the back of my skull. When I awoke yet again, I was greeted with the night sky that I had been fishing under with Will at the lake. I sat up and clutched around at myself, checking all over for wounds and gouges. Although I did seem to somehow be whole, I knew what I had experienced was real. My clothes were still missing, and I was soaking wet. I stood up and looked around me. In the distance before me, I could see the glistening of moonlight being reflected off of rippling waves, peeking through the dense vegetation. I was back at the lake. I approached the shoreline and recognized the geography of the landscape. The pier was only a short distance to the left. A few short steps later, I climbed up onto the boardwalk that I had trekked to. Now, there were no sounds except for that of crickets and frogs. Now in the open moonlight, as I looked down, I could easily see the substance that I was covered with, the reason that I was soaking wet. I confirmed my suspicion as I sniffed the metallic substance in my hand. I was covered in blood. My heart began to pound as I decided to run back to my truck, retrieve the spare key from the undercarriage, and drive hastily to my house. My sprinting was cut short when I tripped over a dark pile on the 2x4s in my path, completely overlooked in my terrified state. I hit the boardwalk with a thud, pausing to reel back and to ponder what I might have tripped over. My fears were immediately supported when I sat up and stared at the pile at my feet. It was a dismembered human being, all covered in blood, and the pieces all piled on top of one another, like a macabre garbage heap. The mass gave off a steam in the night air, but I was frozen in place, focusing upon the head at the bottom that stared at me. That couldn't be. I even had to get a closer look to make sure. I stared intently at the face, now only a few inches from mine. I know that there was no mistaking it. It was me. That was my face. What the fuck? I thought to myself, too terrified to yell out. I scrambled backwards and struggled to my feet, eyes wide in shock. I had to get away. I had to just get home and collect myself. Maybe then I could sit and think rationally about what the hell was going on. I ran back to my truck, and between there and my house, everything's a blur. I don't even think I looked in the mirrors to check for police that may have been chasing me due to my excessive speed. My old pickup slid into my driveway just before I got out and ran to my front door. Before swinging it open, I hesitated for a moment, thinking of how I would exactly explain to my wife why I was naked and covered in a thick layer of blood. I took a breath and pushed open the door, and I immediately noticed my wife sitting on the couch facing the now open door. Wait, let me explain. What the fuck? I covered my mouth in horror. That was Will's voice. That was Will's voice that had come out of my mouth. My wife just stood to her feet and screamed at me before yelling at me, asking me all kinds of weird questions. Where's Joey? What the hell did you do with him? It's me, honey. It's Joey. I can't describe the fear of hearing someone else's voice come out of your own mouth. But as overpowering as that fear was, I had to try and elaborate. Sarah, honey, it's me. When we were fishing, we saw something weird in the sky. I don't know exactly what happened, but I found myself, and Will's dead, I think. What the fuck's wrong with my voice? I yelled at myself, angered by the sound of my vocalizations. I continued to plead with Sarah, all the while she called the police. Sarah turned to me halfway through her call and yelled out, "Oh God, please help me!" I noticed that she was looking over my shoulder instead of at me, just before the world went black once more. I woke up to being stood to my feet by two uniformed police officers, hands cuffed behind my back. "Wait, I didn't do anything," before I turned to my wife, standing across the room. The cops told me that my neighbor had heard the commotion and came over to investigate, and when he did, he snuck up behind me with a baseball bat and knocked me unconscious. "Sarah, please, I didn't do anything. What's going on?" "Could you? What did you do to my husband?" I started to answer with my version of what had occurred, when I noticed the reflection in the mirror behind me. No way, it can't be, that's not me," I yelled out, struggling at the hands gripping my bound arms, watching a naked, bloody William struggling with two uniformed officers in the mirror behind my wife.
Well, being someone else isn't always what it's cracked up to be, especially when you're going to jail for murdering yourself. But I sure hope you don't get too locked up and stop back here again next weekend. And until then, make sure to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications so I can catch you all again next Saturday.
Social media can be very unpredictable, especially regarding horror content. If this content gets removed, all new content will be simultaneously presented on various websites provided in the description to this video. Make sure to follow me in other digital spaces so that you never miss out on the terror. Also, if you like this video, make sure to leave a comment and hit the like button. It helps the channel a lot. If you're new to the channel and you enjoy what's here, consider hitting that subscribe button and the notification bell so that you never miss an upload. Writing is a dream of mine, and it's all of you that make that dream come true.